right, we are back chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. It is Wednesday, June 8th. Alongside Theodore Pristash from Syracuse, New York, I am Blake Pace. Teddy, before we get started, make sure everybody listening to go follow us on Twitter at NYJ_chasing69. Please like, review, subscribe to the podcast. Teddy's at Teddy Huncho, his personal Twitter. I'm at Blake Andrew Pace. We're also on YouTube as well, too. Getting some videos out there. Not that they get a ton of views, but maybe they will.
Go just turn it on for a sec if you're listening.
Just play it on an endless loop, and then maybe I don't know. We'll get there. We'll get some ads.
Maybe
going,
YouTube will give us a bag or something.
Yeah, we'll get the plaque, the million subscribers eventually. That's what we're aiming for here. Teddy, how you doing? I feel like I don't know, like last week, like for the next month. Nothing crazy is going to happen with the Jets.
In terms of the Jets, I mean, I'm doing just fine, other than just counting down the days. But the household's been a little bit of a mess today.
Let's hear it.
Well, so, I mean, as you know, we talked about this earlier today, but my wonderful lady friend, Hannah, she's obsessed with Justin Bieber and had tickets to go to the concert on Friday. And found out today that Justin Bieber is canceling that concert or postponing it, which is just like the end of the world, basically. So that stinks for her. And then follow that up with, I picked up my dog today, River, and I was like doing something and he jumped out of my arms and landed on the ground. And I don't know if he like sprained his leg or like something, but he's like limping around and stuff. And so I feel bad for him too. Feel bad for the girlfriend, and I so it is. You're doing all right, but I'm doing fine,
but you're not doing fine if everybody else in the
house it is what it is, but we're getting through. I just thought it's been a crazy day today, but now I'm here and I'm ready to talk Jets for a bit.
The Bieber story is funny because when I texted you about it, you reminded me that 2 years ago, when he canceled her concert that she was going to for COVID, I was the one. Yeah, it was COVID. It was that summer, and I was the one that broke the news to her about it, and she was devastated. So after waiting an extra 2 years to go see him, and then it also being canceled for reasons that aren't COVID related, not funny, but
no, it's just like the whole situation is just like funny just because it's so random, but it is crazy. Like she called me, I literally thought she was playing a prank on me, which is just like funny, but it is what it is. I'll tell her to watch something.
Yeah, and look, I'm a big fan of certain artists, but I mean she is a legit Justin Bieber fan. So it goes back almost like a decade now, probably, right? Like she's been in love
long before I was in the picture.
Yep. All right, well, sorry to hear everything at the house.
It's okay. I appreciate that.
I can go into some of the stuff I'm dealing with in my house.
That's up to you, sir.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's as funny or entertaining. But anyways, let's
like
go
has mice.
Into
no,
I got mice. Now I got a rat. A fucking rat. Teddy, today's podcast.
All right.
Oh man, aren't you glad that this is a podcast that if anybody's listening to it, it's Jets fans.
They're Jets fans.
We know that there are certain people that will never listen to this.
That is true. I'm glad that you know that.
Cheers to that. Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit more free to say things.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Teddy, we are back here. It is the early parts of June. We're officially 1 week away from your birthday. Happy early birthday. Oh, next episode will probably drop on your birthday, right? Is that how weeks work?
Yeah.
And then a couple days after, I will be back in good old upstate New York, and we'll get to spend.
Yeah, we're going to be getting together. Yeah, that's going to
be fun. Haven't seen you in a bit, so that'll be fun. But as for the podcast, we are in part 2 of our Reading the Room series. Which I thought went pretty well last week, talking about quarterbacks and safeties. We're just going to keep rolling through. And today we're going to be taking a look on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to be looking at running backs, and then we'll finish out the secondary on defense, talking corners. Before we get into all that, just a few housekeeping things, because nothing crazy is happening, but things are happening. people really overreacted to Zach Wilson maybe being a little inaccurate at the start of some, practices last week. It's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, what it was like he threw like 8 passes and completed like 2 or something
Yeah,
like that, or
exactly.
whatever it
It was
was
somewhere between 8 or
in their
11
first
passes.
7-on-7 drill. I
Exactly.
believe. I really could care less,
Oh, that's the thing. And
or couldn't care less.
it goes back to there was another thing that had come out about Zach where it was like, oh, we're a little worried. It's like the people who care the most are the people that don't want to root for Zach Wilson.
Right.
And the realist people will see that and just go, okay, so they haven't been practicing together for a bit. They get back together and he has one off day. It's the start of a new season. It's not
Yeah,
like
and
it's not the
it's
Super
guys
Bowl.
running around in shorts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I remember a lot of days in the summer, when I played football, playing in high school and college both, just seeing like, oh, they're playing great. They're going to be a stud, and then come
Right.
football season, everything's completely different. So it's June. That's what we got to keep
It's
telling ourselves.
exactly. It's typical slow news day type stuff.
Yeah,
And
you hear
because
Treylon Burks has asthma.
I did see that. I also heard that Jimmy Garoppolo could potentially start for the 49ers this year.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It's all, everybody just needs something to talk about. So Treylon Burks having
Ourselves
asthma.
included.
Yeah, ourselves included. So
I know,
that's
but like,
why we
does
had to
that?
bring it up.
I'm sure there's other players who have asthma.
The problem is that when he reported to camp first, like they were pretty worried about his conditioning. Like they were like, "You're pretty out of shape," and then it turns out that he just has difficulty breathing and asthma. And
Gotta
if you're
get
in
him an
Tennessee,
inhaler.
I gotta say, and you're in Tennessee, it's can be a little bit of a tough place sometimes. I never had any bad allergy problems in New York, and they are terrible down here. So I don't know, maybe that does matter a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you have any like affinity toward the Titans with living in Tennessee, or does the whole same division as the Colts thing
Not at
kind of
all.
put that away?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not at all. I kind of hate them, and it was funny because I got a phone call today from the Titans ticket office, and he
Really?
was, yeah, because I had
To your business or?
yeah, to the business, and they were
Okay. Yeah.
trying to sell
Yeah.
me on like a package of tickets. I was like, oh, I'm a Colts fan, and he goes, hey, we still sell the Colts fans. I was like, yeah, I'll see him every year. So
That's
I don't
funny.
know, might buy a package of 4 or 5 games this year. We'll see.
That'd be cool.
Some fun stuff. Yeah. Um, but yeah, no affinity to the Titans. I honestly, they're probably my least favorite team at the moment, just because they've been so competitive finally over the last 5 years.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I
They're your
like
only
some of the
real
players on the team.
competition in the division.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, where were we?
I believe we were just
We were
about to
talking about
talk
Zach
about.
Wilson.
Well, yeah, we
We
kind
finished
of.
that. We got over
Yeah.
that. It doesn't matter. It's a slow news cycle, and people that aren't going to want to see Zach Wilson do well are going to point out every time something like this comes out. And the realist and the people that are hopeful that he's going to develop as a quarterback are going to just not worry about it. And that's kind of where we're both at. Other somewhat Jets news, Jets legend.
More exciting Jets news. These next two.
Yeah.
The 2
Yeah.
points.
These next two. Jets legend Ryan Fitzpatrick calls it a career. Retired in such an interesting way too. Him and his son spent, I think they said 12 or 16 hours making that graphic that had every individual that he's ever played or played alongside.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was like
the word bubble,
586
right?
names. Yeah, he just spent an entire day doing that. Texted it to his friends, and that was his retirement. Does a nice long podcast with Shefty, which, by the way, big note out of that. He said that Peyton Manning's the greatest quarterback of all time. So that's his opinion.
Interesting.
But Teddy, Jets legend, or of a whole 2 seasons. I got the stats right here for you, unless you want to take things away.
No, I'd love for you to feed them to me, but I do have some things to say.
Okay, yeah. So 13-14 as a Jets starter, completed 58.3% of his passes, 6,600 yards, 43 touchdowns, 32 interceptions, and let me see, how many times was he sacked? That'll be a fun one. Oh, only 38. That's not that. It's not good, but
in what, 17 starts?
Yeah, you're right. That's not that great.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I'm kind of scared, and I've wanted to like drop Ryan Fitzpatrick takes before, like on the Twitter or things like that, but
Of his tenure with the Jets?
yeah, I mean, just Jets
Huh,
fans like hate him, or at least a lot do, loud
really?
ones, it seems to me. And
Huh.
it comes down to, I believe he said at one point he just like talked bad about like his time in New York
Oh,
and didn't really like love it or whatever. Um, which to be honest with you, I didn't even like watch the interview or like dive into that story at all. But I just know that like a lot of Jets fans kind of have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to Fitzpatrick.
interesting.
Um, but me personally, like the thing about Fitzpatrick is, number one, that 2015 year, the way it ended is part of the reason for the bad taste, you know, because we had a chance to make the playoffs. All we had to do was beat the Bills. We were better than that year. And then come crunch time, the fourth quarter of that game, and Ryan Fitzpatrick throws 3 interceptions.
Hmm.
I think he had 4 on the day. Like that was tough, you know, and that was not a good way for that year to end.
Right.
But when you think about it on more of a grand scale, if you go back to post 2010, when the second year that we made the playoffs with Sanchez, and the beginning of kind of this terrible stretch, you know, longest playoff drought out of any team in the league dating back to 2011. And it's like that 2015 year with Fitzy was the one year that like kind of stuck out, that as like, oh wow, that was a fun year. You
Yeah.
know, he supported um two guys in Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall to both be over 1,000 yards. You
Right.
know, um I remember like videos of him FaceTiming Brandon Marshall, you know, and they were like best friends, and they would giggle and like love each other, and he was throwing a bunch of touchdowns, you know, like that was awesome, you know. And ever since then I've just kind of loved Fitzpatrick. And I think he had his most successful portion of his career. Well, that could be a little downplaying his front, but he was
No,
very
it's
successful post Jets. And I think that I don't know, I just always
it
loved him, and
the
congrats to him.
you're right. That 2015 season is the only year that he was more than a game over 500 as a starter. His only other winning season was when he went 4-3 with Miami 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's not a crazy thing to say. I didn't do him enough justice when reading the combined stats, because 2016 was so rough that 2015 numbers are fantastic. I mean, he was just shy of a 4,000-yard season, 31 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. 15's not great, but
Yeah, but like when's the last time we've seen 30 touchdowns or anywhere close to it, you know,
right.
passing touchdowns? And
Yeah,
then you look at like
that's a good season.
yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, I mean it was just, it's the only like decent year in this playoff drought. And it's just annoying because like we were a playoff team that year, you know, and I believe we
Mm-hmm.
won the 2 games before that week 17 game
So it's like
against the Bills.
gaining
And so it's
momentum.
like we needed 3 wins to get there, and we were 1 game away against the most winnable team. And then, you know, it all fell apart. And that's kind of what it encapsulates Fitzpatrick so well, you know, the ups and the downs.
It's crazy.
But I think that the Jets fans have, at least these past couple of years, when a couple of things come out and he has this connection with Buffalo, he's always talking about Buffalo. I think that
Exactly.
some Jets fans, including myself, feel kind of jealous, you know, that he doesn't talk more about that 2015 season.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he talks about Buffalo, and then he goes and he spends 2 years down in Miami as well too. So he's been around the division. But yeah, I mean, outside of that's his best season of his career, easily. Just looking at all the numbers, his next highest. I mean, he did 3,800 yards with Buffalo in 2011, but oh, actually, wait. Oh no, yeah, but the touchdown interceptions aren't as great. God, he threw 23 picks that season for Buffalo. Jesus. Fun guy though.
He's a
Just like
goat.
a
Yeah.
guy that, is just someone I'll always remember.
You're always going to enjoy watching him play.
Exactly.
And I think what I always, whenever I'm talking about quarterbacks, the one thing Fitzpatrick has is he trusts his receiver to just throw it up there and hope he
Yep,
goes and gets it. And I think that's
definitely.
something that every kind of quarterback needs to incorporate in their game. Maybe not as much as him, but
Yeah,
I think that's important, to just trust your guys and throw it up there, you know. And I think
definitely.
he's the reason for Javonte Parker's best season, you know.
Yeah.
We could just do a whole pod on Ryan
This is the
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzy pod. The Jets fans
Hopefully all
that
the Jets
absolutely
fans are
hate
like
him here.
still
This is like,
here,
what the
you know?
fuck is this? Yeah, we should talk about the other great news. Everybody's seen the video by now, but inside their podcast that they're hosting, Woody Johnson comes in, sits down, and gets Darrelle Revis, DeBrickashaw Ferguson on Zoom or FaceTime, whatever it was, and Nick Mangold is in the room, and all three of them, they discovered they'll be inducted into the Ring of Honor this season for the Jets, which we talked about last week a little bit. For me personally, like, and for you as well too, like those are names of us being Jets fans. And when the time that they spent in Cortland, and just names that, I think just mean, if there's an era of Jets that mean anything to my football love, it's these guys. And so Darrelle Revis, I saw someone, say it's probably true, the greatest player to ever play for the Jets, in him, getting in there. Nick Mangold, great person. DeBrickashaw Ferguson, best name in football. So three
That's a
great
fact.
guys. Teddy, when you saw the video,
Yeah, no,
emotions?
I
Talk
mean,
me
it was
through
awesome, and you nailed it. Like the way that we're younger, I mean, we're like mid-20s, and yeah, this truly was when they came to Cortland, and we really became, I mean, me personally, that's when I became a Jets fan, watching these guys every day, and these were the best players on the team, Darrelle Revis, Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, like, and Woody said it in the video. He says, like, this is the highest honor we can give you from the Jets, and I do really like that, because Revis, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but that hasn't been 5 years yet, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. And then Mangold is a guy that, like, I think that maybe the, average like NFL fans maybe wouldn't think so, but I think any Jet fan agrees that he's a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, when you're that consistently good for however many years he played, 14, 15 seasons, and you're one of the best centers in the league every year, and we basically just didn't have to worry about the center position for all those years he was there, and every year just kind of write it off as, all right, we have a stud, we have an all pro, and then post him, we've had all these center troubles, and it's just, I think Mangold and Brickashaw really, they're kind of that like representative, like, this is what we need to emulate, and what I think a lot of fans are hoping comes from Mackay and Elijah Vera Tucker. Revis is, I mean, I would agree. I never saw Joe Namath play, but I would agree Darrelle Revis is the best. And yeah, I love that Mark got to be a part of it. Mark Sanchez, it was his podcast with Nick Mangold. They announced it. So I'm glad he got to be there in the room. It is kind of just like, it's like, maybe let Mark in too.
Yeah.
Maybe let Mark in too.
It's
like, I know it was only those couple good years, but maybe we'll throw him in too, because that was a lot of happy memories. But that's probably not how it works,
Like, but I get, when you take a look at, I guess, the quarterbacks that deserve to be in that. I don't know. He was the quarterback of that era, of that stretch.
Yeah, this, like, the stats or anything wouldn't back it up, but
no,
just
not
like
at all.
he was the quarterback when we had our deepest playoff runs, and in 2010 we had like 6 or 7 comeback wins in a row, know, and Mark Sanchez is the guy who's running all those drives. It just, insane. Again, I mean, this may be our young ages of Jets fans. We didn't really experience the guys before that, so it's harder to have a frame of reference, but they're just important, and Mark Sanchez, I'm not going to be banging the drum for him, but these other 3 guys, they truly are like so representative,
cornerstones of that
to us
era.
And I mean, this podcast as a whole, like, that's kind of where it all was born, so it is just really, like, it's really cool to see. And I love, as a guy who's younger and doesn't know the history, like, now those seasons that I lived through are becoming the history, and I really like that a lot.
Definitely. And I also just, I like the timing of it, and I don't know, it's just, I think the organization recognizes, like, we feel pretty confident that we have our shit figured out, so let's just let's do everything pro Jets right now. Like, yeah, this is the right time to bring these guys in. And we talked about Mangold and Sanchez at practice with Saleh. And it's just like, you can tell that I think from ownership down, they all recognize like, we're okay to puff our chests out a little bit and, bring in some guys from an era before and start to build up a lot of hype for the season. The expectations are there. And, it's funny, this past season, Michael Strahan was inducted into the Ring of Honor for the Giants, and the Giants were terrible. And it was halftime of a game and they were losing 6-3. And it's like, you're going to bring out Michael Strahan, one of the most important guys of this century for that franchise. And it was like, the fans aren't excited. So you kind of almost need to time it in a positive light for the fans. And so hopefully this season turns into that, because it's going to make those moments even better. If the Jets are, God forbid what, if they're like 4-2 and you bring out them to induct, like there's going to be more juice around there. I don't know. It seems like it's the right time to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even if it's not like a good record or, when they come out, it's just the idea of like, we have this young core squad who, we're all hoping is just going to be able to gel and get better. And we're going to find, these key guys who are going to, really hold down this team for the next however many years. And to be able to just have those sets of examples around the team, I think it's like understated that it's important. I don't think you can just brush it off because I mean, these are human beings and they're hanging out with guys who've lived and breathed, the ups and the downs with the Jets, and they're able to kind of speak to both things. And right. I think it's just when the main thing you're lacking in a room is experience, that's a great thing to do.
And if the players get a pop when you're out there, you're like, look at what these fans will adore you if you turn into something solid. And it's just like, you're sending a good message to everybody. All right, that's all the housekeeping we had. I'm actually surprised we were able to go that long on the
fun
notes,
stuff this week. It's good stuff. With these things going down, but I like not every week in the summer is going to be like this. Like last week there was nothing, nothing. But
yeah, we talked about Sauce Gardner at a Rangers game. All right, Teddy, reading the room.
Here we go. I'm enjoying this series we're doing.
Fun position groups. I thought last week went well. I think this week is going to be more enjoyable because I feel personally, and I'm sure you do too, I feel a little bit stronger about these position groups. So let's start off with the running backs. Obviously, this past season, not one of the best rushing offenses out there. They finished 27th in the league offensively. It was and I wrote, this was one of my first pieces for Sports Illustrated, it was a really efficient rookie season for Michael Carter. The snaps and the usage that he got he was very effective with the football in his hands. The problem was there wasn't really a ton in the depth chart to feed off of that. There wasn't a number 2 guy that you could go to and be like, okay, we just dice you up again. And yeah, Michael Carter's off the field now, but we're going to throw out another guy who's also going to be able to hammer it home. And in an offensive system like that, like that they're running, that's always very important to have. Now, Michael Carter, obviously the number 2 guy. Let's just list off the full depth chart. It's going to be Breece Hall, our number 1 guy, second round pick taken, out of Iowa State. I got that right? I'm not messing that up.
Yes, sir. It was Iowa State.
Right at number 2, you've got Michael Carter coming into his second season after what I just said, to me was a really solid rookie campaign. And then you got the 3 guys behind him, Ty Johnson, Tevin Coleman, LaMichael Pirine. Teddy, start at number 1. You've talked enough about how much you loved this pick. We both agree that taking a running back in the second round isn't drafting a running back too high. When you get the top guy of the class, that's always considered a positive thing. So just talk to me a little bit here about Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I mean, I feel like I can't talk this guy up enough, just because I personally am so excited. Just having a guy. I want to kind of talk about Michael Carter first, just to contrast it. But
go ahead. Yeah,
exactly what you were just saying about Michael Carter. He did have a very good year last year. And I think the main thing that stood out to me about Michael Carter was he played different and better than I think a lot of people expected with his size. He's only 5'8", 200 pounds, and I think that when you watched him play, he played a lot bigger than that. And he played in a way where, he could be that, like, I kind of didn't really expect him to get as much work on first and second down as he did. But I do think he was able to at least show that maybe if you don't want to be giving him the ball all day there, he can at least handle that, and can at least run that. And you're exactly right. He did have a very good rookie year. And I think more just like passed the eye test in a way, where you just watch him and you kind of know, okay, that guy can play.
Mm-hmm.
With all that, you kind of looked at this room and you said, okay, we all kind of agree that Michael Carter can't just be the guy by himself. And, they do have some serviceable guys behind him. I think that Ty Johnson, the thing with running backs is a lot of times we talk about these jags, like just a guy. I think that's like what Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman are. But at the same time, I think that's fine. Like you have a good offensive line. We're emulating the 49ers system. I think guys like that can work, but at the end of the day, Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, Tevin Coleman, that's not really doing much for you as a room. So then when you go out there and you get a guy like Breece Hall, you get the number one rated running back for most people in the draft. I mean, so one of the most like telling stats for running backs in the NFL is production. Production in college indicates production in the NFL. And I mean, Breece Hall's stats jump off the page in college. 2020, his sophomore season, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. 2021, last season, 1,400 yards, 28 yards away from 1,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 36 receptions. Like those are good numbers. And what I love about it is the ability of being able to be that rushing and receiving role. As much as we love Michael Carter, Breece Hall doesn't need to come off the field on third down if they don't want him to.
Right.
They can have him out there for passing plays. They can have him in pass protection. They can, he can run out of the backfield or stay home and be able to pick up a block a little bit better than Michael Carter would, So when you add a guy of that talent and with that kind of play style where he really can, as an overall, he has all the tools in his toolkit. And then you add that to a guy like Michael Carter, who prototypically wants to be that third down back, that pass catching back. That's how the Jets want to use him. And having a guy like Breece Hall who's able to do both, and a guy like Michael Carter who's able to do both, I think it's just going to be able to help both of them really just like be very productive players, and I definitely think Breece will be the number one. I definitely think, Michael Carter will probably have like only like 300, 400 yards rushing, but I think that's fine. And I think that the room as a whole, with those two guys being able to bounce back and forth, just really comes together and in my opinion, looks really good.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a team that can go too deep with that, and even like you said, if you have just a guy in there that you need to throw out for a few plays a game like Ty Johnson or Tevin Coleman, and that's what San Francisco wants to do, and that's what the San Francisco offense wants to do, is what I meant to say. It's just, we are going to keep dicing you on the ground until it stops working, and we're going to make you stop the run before we throw the ball. And hey, if we're crushing it, then we're going to go into some play action and really mess with your head. So they're going to be one of the top running offenses this upcoming season. I truly believe it. And for Breece Hall, I got thinking of like, okay, what does a typical workload look like, for a rookie running back? And we talked a little bit about this before the show, but you go to the last 4 seasons, outside of this past year with Najee Harris, who took the ball 300 times, you're really looking in that 250 carry range, 230 to 250. Jonathan Taylor in his rookie season got 232 touches. The year before that, Josh Jacobs, 242. And then Saquon Barkley the year before that, 261. All of those guys had the same kind of rush attempts when you take a look at what Breece Hall did in his collegiate career. Like, you can tell, okay, yeah, he took the ball 279 times in 2020, 253 in 2021. Like, yeah, he can handle a sizable workload. And it's funny because you obviously need talented players, but we're also, this is an offensive scheme where we have seen so many just random guys thrive in, and maybe we didn't see it last year. Michael Carter, I think, is a good player. So I don't want to say he's just some scrub that's, excelled in the offense, but you look at San Francisco, you look at Atlanta, you go back to the history of this offensive scheme, even to Washington before that. You don't need to have a top tier running back to do well in this run game, but when you do, it goes off. And most notably, I always think of Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman and what they were able to do in Atlanta that season that they went to the Super Bowl, against New England. That's what I look at this room as. I view Breece Hall as a guy that's going to get 250 touches in his rookie season. Probably is inching toward 1,000 yards. I would assume so. I'm not sure what the touchdowns or the yards per carry will look like. Hopefully they're, good. And then, Michael Carter right behind that. Like you said, I'm bummed out fantasy wise. That's a tough break. I thought I had something solid there after a good rookie season. I have him in our league, but I like you said, he's a bowling ball. He is just gonna bounce off dudes. He's tough to bring down. He's good with the ball in his hands. Good catching the ball. I really
Yeah,
like
and
the
that's
duo.
why I kind of think that like I think I might even be underrating Michael Carter and what he's going to do in this offense, but I still do think he's going to be used, and I think his workload in the passing game will only increase. Last
Yeah.
year I think he had 55 targets, only 36 receptions on those, but I mean
Mhm.
that's decent numbers. 36
Nine
receptions isn't anything to put your nose up at,
nine
and
yards a catch.
not yet 9 yards a
That's
catch, and
great.
he that number is only going to go up in my opinion. I mean, you look around at other teams in the league and the amount they throw to their running backs. um Add that in with Zach Wilson maybe learning to check it down a little bit more often. But
Mhm.
I also just think, like, we talk about this rushing attack as a whole. You mentioned at the top, Jets were 27th in rushing last year, and in my opinion, that's a combination of, one, being down in a lot of games, probably not having as many attempts as a lot of other teams. Number two, you had an offensive line, that doesn't look as good as the one that we're projecting is going to be out there this year. More holes, more injuries throughout. No Mackay back then. And then number three, again, I think I've talked about this every episode, but when you didn't have tight ends out there that you could trust, that you could be in a 2 tight end set and both run the ball and pass the ball, it adds that element of, like, okay, if they're coming out here in 2 tight ends and they have Wesco and Croft, they're probably going to run the ball, and then so all these things come into play. Obviously there are excuses, but when you take a team who's down as much as the Jets, they're really not going to run the ball that often.
Mm-mm.
And so kind of what you were saying about the scheme, like, I really do think whoever's going to be the running back for this Jets team next year is going to do pretty well. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to be more successful just because of their offensive line and their tight ends that they have, and just the whole team and offense kind of taking a step as a whole. The defense getting better is always good for the running game. And then you mix that with a guy like Breece Hall, who is that talented guy, jack of all trades. I guess not jack of all trades, but just has all the traits that he needs. And then a guy like Michael Carter, who's another good player. To me, like, this room seems great, especially because I kind of trust Ty Johnson to be that cleanup guy if one of those guys goes down for a bit or anything
Mhm.
like that. So I personally rank this room pretty highly. I think I'm going to go ahead and give him a B plus.
Yeah.
I don't want to say an A just because, with the question mark that is a rookie running back in Breece Hall, I don't just want to go and throw that out there. But I think when you look at who Breece Hall is and who we all want him and project him to be, and then you add that to Michael Carter and have a room with pretty solid depth in Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman, who I personally think can still at least get some snaps. I really like this room. I think LaMichael Pirine will probably be cut. I'll just throw that in at the end here.
Yeah, you can't keep five. You sometimes can't even keep four.
Yeah, I mean, that
Four is a
2020
stretch,
draft class is falling apart every single year,
but it's fine
just
that it
getting
is.
worse worse. But yeah, we've talked about it. That's
It's
fine.
fine
But
if it is, if 21 and 22 are as good as they
sorry,
should be.
Michael P. Ryan. I think we missed on that 4th rounder.
Oh, happens. I'm gonna go a little bit lower than you. I'm gonna give it a B. I almost went B minus, but I changed it to a B just because I think I am a little bit. I'm still pretty high on Michael Carter. I think to me, I would be almost shocked if by the end of next season this wasn't a top 8 rushing offense.
Yeah, that's kind of where I
Just out
stand
of
as
scheme,
well.
just out of scheme alone, and the guys that they have. My only thing is that I'm not low on Breece Hall. I think if I pull up where
It's
I
hard for
was on
you to
him,
come off as high on him when I am your podcast co-host, because I
yeah,
am like
right.
the highest
Well,
on him.
but and I didn't have him. I don't believe I had him. Look, after the teams that they went to, he will probably be the most productive rookie in this class, at least out of the top 2 guys. But I do believe I had Kenneth Walker just a little bit higher than him.
You did,
Yeah,
I
had him.
remember.
I had him just a little bit higher. I had Kenneth as my 44th overall player. Breece Hall is my 53rd. So they were close. But then if you compare to last year as well, too, I would have had him behind Najee, Etienne, Javante, and then just a little bit ahead of Michael Carter. So I did view him, I guess, as someone that was a kind of lead.
I mean, I don't, if he's going to be 4th on that list of those guys you just listed,
really good players.
That's all right with me.
Exactly.
That's
really
all right
good players. Yeah. So I'm going to give it a B. I think while I might not be the highest person in the world on him, I think
you're not the highest person in the world.
No, that's you. You're the highest person in the world.
In the room.
In the room. I'm the highest in the room.
Sorry.
I think that no, you're good. I think that the fit is fantastic. Like at Breece Hall, everybody, it was just like get him in an outside zone offense, and he's in one.
I'm so excited. I gotta order my jersey.
The one thing that I forgot to mention before this, and we'll go to it now, is we put out a Twitter poll, and I thought it'd be nice to share the results of, because
I honestly saw that the poll was complete and I didn't look because I wanted to wait.
So what would you? So the tweets that we put out were, how would you grade the current running back room for the Jets? And the options were A- or better, B- to B+, C- to C+, or D+ or worse. What do you think won for the running backs?
I mean, I think it's probably pretty close between the A and B. I'm gonna go Jets fans. They're optimistic. I'm gonna say A- and above.
You are 100% correct.
I know 50%, my squad.
50% of people had A- or better. Second was 42% chose B- to B+. 8% of people had C- to C+, and nobody voted for D+ or worse. So at least there was nobody that hates the room.
Nice.
But yeah, anything else that you want to include with it? I put my note for Tevin Coleman is he's just an assistant coach at this point.
Yeah, no, that is funny. I mean,
he's just traveling around with Mike LaFleur at this point.
Yeah, and he's old, and like, especially for a running back, like I don't really expect anything from him. I do just like Ty Johnson, I think is just criminally underrated, and I think has looked good the past 2 years when he's played for the Jets. And he's young, he's 25 years old. And I just think that it's just a good guy to have as like your third option. I think he very well could be on a lot of teams and be their second best running back. So I just think he really rounds out the room in a way where we have 3 guys who we're not really worried about any of them kind of falling off that cliff as running backs do, and not really having the burst. We're not really worried about, one-dimensional guys, because Breece Hall can run and catch. Michael Carter can run and catch. Ty Johnson can run and catch. So I just think it's a good room.
It is. I think we said beforehand these 2 are groups that I think we're both pretty high on compared to the rest of the depth chart. But okay, awesome. Let's flip over to the defense. Let's finish out this secondary.
Oh yeah,
cornerback. Just where it stands right now, the 1s and 2s on the outside. Sauce Gardner, 4th overall pick. DJ Reed, opposite him as well, too, coming in from Seattle on a 3-year deal. Behind them, Bryce Hall, everybody's favorite TikToker. Brandon Eccles as well there, too. And then your 2 nickel corners, your 2 slot corners. You got Michael Carter, the second. And is it just Javelin? Or Javelin Goodry?
Javelin Goodry. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So those are the 2 guys in the slot. Teddy, The top note here as we start off with Sauce Gardner, because I think that's where we want to start. The top note that you have here is everything I've been dreaming of. So I'm just gonna let you take this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I'll say is hearing you just say like starting corners, Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Like you fast forward 2 months ago, and however long ago free agency was, go back to January or whatever, February. Like I did not expect to have two guys like Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed that I would have the confidence that I have in them. I I don't mind Bryce Hall as a player, but the room was just a lot weaker not too long ago. And now
Mm-hmm.
you look at Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and those names, and it just feels so much better. And like this room is really looking great. To talk about Sauce Gardner specifically, yeah, I mean everything I've been dreaming of. The reason I say that is he is that kind of like prototypical, like he has the size of kind of like what you would say an NFL corner is. He's long, he's very athletic, probably one of the most athletic players, if not the most athletic player in the draft. You have his ability to play the ball in the air, which is just something that all Jets corners have lacked these past few years. And I think that's where my real sticking points with guys like Bryce Hall and Brandon Eccles is okay, you can be in the right position, but you got to know how to play the ball. So to draft a guy who's going to come in as a rookie, and obviously, rookies have growing pains. He doesn't have to come in and be the best corner in the league right away, but just to know that like, okay, kind of these athleticism things and the ability to play the ball, like he already has those. He doesn't need to start from scratch as a guy who doesn't have those in his talents and then, develop them. So I just think it's going to really help accelerate like his progression as an NFL cornerback. And I think working with the defensive guys that we have, and Robert Saleh and Ulbrich, and I really think he's going to be in a position to really come into his own. And I think that I never would have expected the Jets to take a top 5 corner. And the fact that we
Mm-hmm.
did, it's just like, wow, I get to watch, hopefully a guy who's going to turn into a Jalen Ramsey in this league, who's going to come in and really dominate from day one. And it's just everything I dreamed of. I love DBs. I love corner versus receiver matchups, and the ability to have a guy like Sauce go up against Diggs, go up against Tyreek, go up against N'Keal Harry. No, I just want to talk shit about the Patriots, but no,
Oh
it's
no.
fucking awesome, dude. And then DJ Reed, like I'll just talk about him quick.
Yeah.
Like he, as the other starter, he's just a guy who like has played in the league. Didn't get off to the best start last year, but really came into his own, and really showed he's able to play. And I just think he's a guy, especially now that he's our second best safe or corner. We don't have to hope he steps into becoming that number one type of guy when we have a guy like Sauce Gardner across from him. So I think he just kind of plays well off Sauce. I did dig up this stat. According to PFF, like I said, his first 3 games last year where he kind of really didn't play that well.
Mm-hmm.
But the last 15 weeks of the season, he's second in opposing completion percentage of all corners in the league, and he let up no touchdowns. I think he was second in yards after the catch. So just like a few
Okay.
things there to show
Mm-hmm.
like he can play. He had a pretty good year last year. So when I'm just looking at the starters, I feel much more confident than I could have if the Jets had made 1 or 2 decisions differently this offseason.
Yeah. Look, the starters are very solid. I was extremely high on Sauce Gardner. I think he was my fourth, not fourth, maybe it wasn't fourth, but I'm just curious. So I'm going to pull it up because I have it right here. He was my fourth overall player in this draft class, and my top corner. So obviously I'm a huge fan of him. To me, this is I know you said Jalen Ramsey, and they're both great cornerbacks in their own respect. This is Robert Saleh getting his Richard Sherman of that fantastic season that he had in San
That works
Francisco.
too.
And you think about the scheme and how it transfers from Richard's stay in Seattle and coming to San Francisco to play in the same defense, bringing it to New York now. Just a long, smart, physical cornerback. DJ Reed also, I like the guys that have experience in the scheme. played in Seattle. I believe his stop before that was also in the same defensive scheme, or maybe he was just in Seattle is what I'm getting confused. But
I
anyways,
think you're right, but
I mean, it's
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
what I love about it is like, yes, they're still both young, but the expectations for both of them should be at the very least solid in this upcoming season. And like you said, if Sauce is the guy that comes out and he just lives up to just about everybody's expectations of what he was in college and what people thought of him throughout the draft class, like, yes, he should be team's number one corner from day one. And I know you mentioned, Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill. That schedule has got some fucking dogs at receiver. You think of Denver and having to play Jerry Jeudy. You think about Cincinnati and having to play
Don't just
Jamar
say Jerry
Chase.
Judy's the best receiver on Denver so casually like that.
Who's your guy again?
Cortland Sutton,
We
bro.
all own. What's funny is we're in our dynasty league.
I don't
I think
have
we
him, but
each.
I just think
Oh, okay.
Cortland Sutton's the GOAT.
KJ Hamler, don't sleep.
And then Tim Patrick, man,
and then
don't
Tim
sleep
Patrick.
on him either.
Right.
But
Jamar
just,
Chase,
I mean, the
T.
point
Higgins.
stands as a whole.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
just like good receivers.
Good receivers that you guys that are on the schedule all over the place. And you even go into, you've got Detroit late in the season, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Like, there are so many good receivers in the league now that, I think that's where people always said positional value is, quarterback 1, edge rusher 2, and then it's like some sort of combination of wide receiver corner. Corner's kind of creeping up into that number 2 outside of quarterback, just because it's so much easier for defenses to win up front with a very heavy and deep rotation. Your guys on the outside, week in, week out, need to be at the premier level because of how good passing offenses are now, how good quarterbacks are now, and how great wide receivers are. So cornerback is such an extremely important position. Having a guy that can go out there, I mean, best corner for the Jets. This is the best starting duo for the Jets at corner in such a long time, and they haven't even stepped on the field yet. So
it's a good point.
Like you said, they balance out each other well. I like that they're perfect fits. We talk about fitting players into, great coaches can work their scheme around the players there, but when they fit like a glove, it just is so much easier to transition to a new team or transition to the pros. And so for both of these guys, I'm very excited to see how the starting unit does in their first year together.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, kind of just to move on here, but like what makes the room so great is when you have kind of guys like these, and maybe Sauce is still a question mark, yeah, he's a top 5 pick, but we've never seen him play before.
Right.
And DJ Reed's, he's a guy who got picked up off waivers. I'm not sure his draft situation, but I know he kind of had to work and step into his role and earn his role. But then, I mean, look at a guy like Bryce Hall, who we've all watched the past 2 seasons and has 100% outplayed expectations
from everybody.
And I think it's funny that like the flip that has to happen in my mind personally, because all off season when everyone's spouting off all the reasons that we don't need to draft a corner, and it's like, oh, well, Bryce Hall, he's really good. He has potential. He can step into a starting number 1 type of player, and it's like, that's great. Like, believe in him. But I kind of felt like I had to be like, but he's not there yet. We can't just buy in. Now, though, it's like, okay, well, we did address corner. Let's not forget that Bryce Hall is a very talented player,
Right.
And I do want to throw this out to you. Like, what do you really think his role will be on this team? Like, do you think he's going to be coming in and seeing just kind of like rotational snaps somehow and like a package, or maybe just stepping up when guys are injured or tired, or do you see him playing inside at all? Like, does he have that ability? I mean, it's just like, because I got no clue. Like, I really don't. I think he's still going to work his way on the field, sometimes, whether that's just giving a guy a blow.
Yeah.
Giving a guy a blow.
Wow. When they do that in football. Yeah.
Right. That is definitely things they say in football, though.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, but it's awesome because I do think Bryce Hall is a very good player, but at the same time, I think his ball skills 1000% needed work. He essentially had none. And I think that, like, to replace him with 2 guys who I'm confident are going to at least have a base that's better than them. And if Bryce Hall does take that next step, maybe go ahead and replace DJ Reed or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's I'm so much more confident not having to rely on him to be the number one.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the one thing that stood out to me when I looked at, all of the numbers from this past season and snap counts and all of that. I mean, no one was out on the field more than Bryce Hall last year. 98% of snaps, he was the number one guy on the team. He was out there more than anybody else. And you look at it now,
That's
and
kind of sick for
that's
him.
going to go down drastically. Like
Oh
that,
yeah,
there's just no way around it. I don't know about
it'll
playing
probably be
on the
like
inside.
30%
Yeah,
with
it's probably just going
healthy
to be
players.
more rotational, but he's still a guy that, like, look, if he's around, like you said, Reed gets banged up or Sauce, if he needs to go out there, he's someone that we've at least seen grow into a player that can hold his own here and there. And so, no, he's not what these top two guys are going to be, but he's also a super young player that has taken steps in the first 2 years of his career. Now, I almost wonder sometimes if a player's like, it's gotta be a frustrating situation for him, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
do
it's
think the road is there for him to take the job from DJ Reed if he's able to do all the things that everyone's been saying. Well, what I worry about is, like he's a 6th round pick who is already kind of outperforming expectations,
right.
so how much higher is that ceiling?
Yeah. How
We'll
far
have
can
to
it go?
see.
And I also look, I know his contract wasn't massive, but you bring in DJ Reed, you pay him 11 million a year.
Yeah, you're gonna want him on the field.
You're going to want him on the field. And so, unless he just completely flat out doesn't have it and it becomes a bad contract, then obviously you put the guy out there, that is going to give you the chance to win. But that's going to be such a change for him personally. I mean, just from being out there always to scratching for opportunities. Look, he'll be out there. There'll be snaps where you give one of those guys a break, and he's a good guy to have there. But I don't know about playing on the inside necessarily. And then
yeah, no, I don't really think he's gonna. I'm just trying to.
Where's he going to
There's
be?
all these possibilities, and it's kind of odd. You got a guy who's been the starter for 2 years in a row, or a year and a half, from when he actually got in. And then now, who knows how much he's actually going to see the field if these guys stay healthy.
Right. Yeah. And then you have to mention Eccles. You got to talk about him for a little bit.
Yeah. The thing with Eccles, he was another guy who, like, after we signed Reed this offseason, I think that was really when a lot of fans kind of became against the idea of drafting a corner high.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was, well, Bryce Hall and Brandon Eccles are both guys who've, shown a lot of potential. My thing with Brandon Eccles, he did all right, like, I guess, maybe, but I think it's just one of those things where, and I do this too, but I think it's one of those things where he's a guy that has been forced to be on the field a lot. So we've watched him play a lot. So just like seeing his name, it's like, oh yeah, I know him. He's always, he's a starter. I think a lot of fans kind of get lost in that, but like Brandon Eccles definitely is not the type of guy I want starting or even, like him being the 4th option here is fine. But if he was like our first backup, I would not be confident in that. And
right.
It's just, you have a guy like this who is a lower round pick, and what sticks out in my mind is the Bills game. And for some reason, the Jets didn't want to put Bryce Hall on Stephon Diggs and had Brandon Eccles on Stephon Diggs like the whole game, which was really annoying. Or maybe they were just playing sides. I don't know, but I was like, why isn't Bryce Hall on Stephon Diggs? And then I think a lot of us who are listening remember when 3 plays in a row, the Bills just called a go route because they had Diggs one-on-one against Eccles to the left. And I think like one time it was a penalty, one time they just like didn't complete the pass. And then what do you know on the third one? Touchdown, and Eccles, like Bryce Hall, like all the Jets corners these past couple of years, number one weakness that I see is the inability to play the ball. And it just comes down to like when you're in phase with a guy, when you're one step behind that receiver and he puts his eyes get big and he puts his hand up, like number one, you gotta be able to see those cues and know when it's time to go attack the ball. And then number two, you have to have the ability to turn your head and locate the ball and make a play on it. Maybe you don't have to catch it, but you have to at least make a play on it. And it's just something the Jets corners have lacked. And it's something that Eccles and Hall specifically have lacked, is just that inability to get that head around. They'll be in perfect position and the ball will just come right into the receiver's hands. And it's the inability to get that head around, inability to get your hands up and to play the ball. And I'm fine. Like, I don't, these are decent players who, if they work on that, can, be pretty, productive, average, whatever you want to say, players in this league. But if you have a lack of ball skills, I do not want you out there as a corner, So the fact that instead of seeing Bryce Hall, Eccles starting, or DJ Reed, then Bryce Hall, then Eccles is the number one, like the fact that we have these guys who need work kind of lower on the depth chart just makes me more confident in the room as a whole, because I do think a guy like Eccles could contribute, but he's not ready to just go out there and play week one.
Right. You ever think, not to just completely switch off what you're saying, because I thought it was great, but when you're older and you've got like a family, are you going to be a defensive coordinator for the kids' high school football team?
I think about that sometimes if I'm into like coaching. I don't really know. I mean, I know
I think
like
you would be. I think you'd be good.
I know like the DB stuff, pretty good, but I don't know. Well,
I don't know.
maybe
I feel like at the high school level, I don't know. Like
yeah,
we know some of the coaches that coached at Cortland. Do we want to say that they might have been the most knowledgeable?
No, for sure. And like, I don't know. I like football enough to do it. What I worry about personally is like, I went to like a fifth grade soccer game the other day for one of the kids in her class, and like I would not want to coach children in front of their parents. Like it is just so uncomfortable, and obviously high school might be a little different, but I don't know if that's a dynamic I'm really looking to introduce in my life, being a high school coach.
Not even that with the parents. I went to my ex-girlfriend's little brother's soccer game, and just like, even just having to sit there and watch it, when they're like 7 and you're just like, Jesus.
I know. Imagine if one of them was your kid though, you'd probably care a lot.
I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I just didn't care because I was like, what are we doing? But no, I think that's a really good point. When Eccles is your number 4,
oops,
that's not the worst case scenario, especially when you feel very confident about the 1, 2, and somewhat confident about the 3.
Yeah. What's great about today's episode is Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall are like just 2 guys I am so excited for. And, I cannot wait to see them on the field, and hopefully they're everything we want them to be.
Definitely. Now, real quick, do we want to touch on the inside guys a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
okay.
Michael Carter second, starting nickelback. I think he, very good player. Showed he could kind of hold down that role as like last year he was the best corner on the team in my opinion. Well, maybe it just like played the best. Which who knows, maybe there's a bunch of stats out there that say that's wrong, but like, because I did think Bryce Hall was good, but he still just had those times where he's getting beat, not making plays on the ball. I think Michael Carter really stood out as like a guy who's going to get involved in the run game, a guy who has the ability to cover, the inside guys in the slot and the tight ends. And, he was only a rookie. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to see him take a few steps forward this year. And then behind him, Javelin Goodry. I think a guy we got from the Colts, maybe. I honestly can't remember where we got this guy from, but he's pretty bad.
I'll pull it up. Yeah, no, you're thinking Pierre Desir or something.
No, yeah, I know we got Desir for sure.
Oh, you also got our former 2nd round pick corner. Oh, what the fuck was his name? He was a bum.
Damn, I wish I knew.
I'm gonna take a look at where Guidry.
Is this recent?
From. No, this was 2 years ago. There was a season where you guys brought in every Colts player that we cut. It was everyone. You guys.
Okay, we must have drafted him or just picked him up 2 years ago.
You drafted, or where is it?
Look at us. We're so smart.
Yeah.
Listen, I would have known Javelin Goodry's.
It seems like he was undrafted.
I would have known his deal a year ago, but it's kind of hard to keep up with all these guys. But I know he's another guy who's played a little bit more than Like we've seen him on the field a little bit more than I would like. And I think these past couple of years have kind of been that transition of like the Jets are trying to get away from starting these guys who on other teams, would not be starters or even second stringers, and I think Goodry kind of falls into that category.
I was thinking of Quincy Wilson.
Yes, we
He
talked
was
about him.
A second round pick, and then you guys took him for a little bit.
Good for
but
us.
Yeah, look, it's surprisingly like, I don't know. I think they're starting to really, the NFL is starting to understand the importance of a strong nickel corner. They added it to a position on Pro Bowl and all pro rosters. There are some guys that are making a name for themselves. And I personally get to live through Kenny Moore, who probably right now is the best slot corner in the league. And he's holding out for a new contract, which is always fun, but hopefully that man gets his money. But it's just with how pass happy the league is now, you need to have a nice slot corner. And so maybe that is something that I guess I would take a look at, and not say that it's a glaring concern, because while it's a growing importance, I don't still think it's the most important thing on a defense. But I don't know.
You wouldn't
like you
say
said,
it's as strong as the outside guys.
Exactly.
When you're looking at
Not
the
at
Jets
all.
roster.
Yeah. When you take a look at the roster and the depth chart, this would be one where I go, nah, it could be good. Maybe it doesn't need to be, but
yeah, I think Michael Carter II is a really good player.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
he's probably a guy that I don't know a ton about, but
came out of Duke, has the same name as Michael Carter, the running back. The Jets have a lot of doubles. We got like Breece Hall, Bryce Hall, Michael Carter, Quincy and Quinnen Williams, some other stuff in there too.
I like it. I guess I don't know. I think well, before that, we got to play the guessing game as well too. So let me pull it up. How would you grade the Jets cornerback room on Twitter? A- or better, right. B- to B+, C- to C+ or D+ or worse. Which one do you think won for the cornerbacks?
This is closer, but I guess I'll go A again, just knowing Jets fans.
It was B. It was B-
it was
to B+.
That was my second guess.
55% of votes. But second was A, like you said. 41% of people said A- or better, and then 5% said C- to C+.
Well, I like that. Just because I think both polls. So we had the running back poll where A- or better won, and then this one where B to B+. And I think, that's kind of right as I see them. I think the running back room is just a little stronger. I think mostly what that just comes down to is you don't need as many guys. You don't need as many good bodies in your running back room. But so I'm a little lower. I'm instead of a B+, I'm just going with a B here for the cornerback room. And that really just comes down to, we've kind of talked about it. I am confident in our starters, especially. I think DJ Reed and Sauce, I'm not really skeptical that they're going to play well. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a rookie and a 25-year-old who's coming off really his best season, so they're question marks, so I'm not going to give them an A+, but I am confident in the room, but just I think there's more question marks than maybe the running back room.
Well, this is where we're going to flip a little bit. And this, I think, is the first time I've given a higher grade than you have. I'm going to go B+ for these guys. And kind of like where I said I was a little bit lower on the running backs because coming in, I guess I didn't view Breece as my number one guy. With Sauce, I have all the expectations and belief that he is going to, maybe it's not going to be week one when he's having to, although you guys open with Baltimore, there's nothing really crazy going on with them.
But my boy Rashad Bateman.
Yeah,
that's it.
But I think at least by the midway point of the season, I mean, I think he's going to be one of the standout corners in this game. And so I'm going to give it a B+. I also really like the DJ Reed signing just because I think you're catching him at the right point of his career. And there were so many signings this offseason. We'll continue to talk about them as we go further along in this series, where it's just you're timing these out right, where you're getting a guy in off a really good season. If you're bringing him into the right situation, where DJ Reed, he had to be the number one guy in Seattle last year. And it was a really bad defense, and they got torched in the passing game. No help from the safeties.
Yep.
No help from the front seven. When you're in that situation, and then you come over here and it's like, wait a minute, I'm the number 2 guy now. I love that role that he's going to transition into. Of course, we need Sauce to be the number 1. But I'm expecting that he's going to be that from day one. And I really like the starters. I think the backups, having Bryce is just a very solid number 3, a guy that, like I said, is just was always on the field last year. So he's got experience. He's probably a little bit more comfortable now. I'm going to go B+. This is probably going to be one of my highest grades I give to the series. I really love this cornerback room.
Yeah. I'll echo that. We obviously haven't gone through the remaining, I think, 4 groups that we have left, but I'm pretty sure these are going to be my 2 highest. And I do, just to touch on, Sauce's expectations a bit. I don't know if I don't know like exactly, who was drafted or whatever, but I do think in general over the past 5 to 7 years, the highly drafted cornerbacks have had a pretty high success rate in terms of just, last year you had who was it?
Last year you had
Surtain and
let's see,
the other guy. Darn,
JC
I'm
Horn.
this. Yeah, and JC Horn, who I thought both were pretty well.
They're pretty and even guys beyond
guys
that,
like Jeff Okuda, Asante Samuel Jr. I think a lot of these kind of highly rated, highly drafted cornerbacks have done pretty well. So I'm hoping that Sauce can kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if he could be the best out of the group, but it just comes down to, can you actually do it?
Right. Yep.
But he's a stud and a freak by all accounts.
It's exciting. Fun groups. Yeah. Okay. So Teddy gave the running backs a B+, the cornerbacks a B. I flipped it. I went running backs B, and then cornerbacks B+. 2 exciting groups. And I'm guessing like next week, I'm excited to see when we put out the poll next Monday of how people view the linebacking room, because that's going to be next, right? Or should we wait till the squad, I guess, but that it's going to be funny.
No, I'm down to do linebackers next week. Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to rank. It's going to be funny at all. What? I gave the safety room a C-, so I don't know what I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think there's not much room to go. Rough. Yeah, that's tough.
Man. All right, awesome. Well, Teddy, I think that'll wrap it up for this week for us. Thank you, guys.
I think so, but that was a blast.
It was a good time. I think we did a good job with that. Thank you guys for listening to Chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. And we mentioned it before. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials at NYJ_Chasing69, Teddy at Teddy Hunt Show, me at Blake Andrew Pace. We'll be back next week celebrating Teddy turning 32. We will be talking, I guess we'll go to receivers and linebackers, some sort of combination with that. I think we have to separate. To separate defensive line and wide receivers because they're so deep. There's so many guys to talk about. We won't.
Yeah, and then to wrap it up, we'll do O-line, D-line. A little lineman day.
Yep.
For all our linemen out there, and that'll be a great time.
Final grades, and we're done.
I used to play center in 3rd grade, 3rd to 5th.
They put me out at offensive line for 1 snap in 5th grade. And
when Blake weighed 70 pounds.
They told me in 3rd grade, they were like, you don't weigh enough to play. And so I had to wait till 4th grade, and then I was still just barely making it. And then they put me on offensive line for 1 play. I vividly remember doing nothing because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing up here. And then we get back into the huddle for the next play, and they were like, you missed the assignment. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Elementary school football was a blast.
Oh my God. Fun times when you're just like sitting at the back of the field. I was so scared. That was not good. But it was fun.
That's how I was once I got to college. That's when I was just
you were just
on the sideline watching.
Nice. All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Peace.